and it's time for another episode of Customers Who Click. Today I'm joined by Sully, the founder of BombTech Golf and Ecom Growers, an email marketing agency. Sully grew BombTech Golf to 7 figures with just 0 full-time employees and attributes a lot of that success to his email marketing strategy, which you'll hear more about soon. I'm a massive fan of email marketing, always have been, always will be, and despite recent changes to the industry, it's still not going anywhere. You've just got to be smarter with how you use it. Fortunately, Sully's got some great tips, so let's hear from him now. Hi, Sully. Thanks for joining me today. Could you tell us a bit about yourself, your background, and what you're doing at the moment?
Yeah, so I'm a accidental entrepreneur. Started in 2011, pre the selfie, pre Facebook ads.
Yeah,
yeah, way back, even kind of before Shopify was as easy as it is today. And I essentially was trying to become or win the world long drive contest, which is like home run derby of golf. And in my quest to hit the ball as hard as I could, I ended up becoming obsessed with golf and golf drivers specifically and designing them.
Were you a golf player before, or was that just something you randomly decided to get into?
No, I played up growing golf and used to be, I would say, a good golfer in high school. You know, state qualifier and used to play well, and then I didn't play at all in college, played rugby and went a different direction and just skied all winter. It was sports wise. And then my buddy was like, hey, I'm going to this local long drive event, you want to come? And I used to play golf in high school. I was like, sure. And he gave me a club and he didn't qualify, but I did.
Okay.
And that became this obsession where I would go to the driving range every day. It wrecked my golf swing, wrecked my back, but it taught me a lot about materials, product, and essentially I had this local club builder building me these really special products, drivers, and I broke all of them, not from pure power, but from his inability to assemble them. So I just started making my own, assembling them my own. I talked to a buddy at UVM where I went to college. I was like, dude, I kind of want to design my own club. He's like, you're not that smart. Like, you're not wrong. And so I worked with a group of students for a year, and we designed our first ever BombTech dual cavity driver. And I don't know what I was thinking, but I just said, let's make them. So I cashed in my 401k, made them. And to take a step back, I had documented this whole journey on Facebook early days.
Okay.
And that process of just like literally saying, hey, I'm designing this club. What color do you want? What shaft do you want? What do you play now? I had a small following, but when I launched the product, they were ready to buy, which was kind of crazy. And I said, well, sold $10,000 of clubs. Let's do more of that. And it took me down this journey, and I've been very fortunate to have had many life epiphanies throughout the process. But this year, we're going to do like 15 million in sales with 2 employees, and I don't work that much in the business. And I have another business I was able to start as well. So crazy journey, unexpected one, and here I am now.
Sweet, sounds pretty good. So how far can you drive?
Now I hit it short, but straight. So I play what I call regular golf. So I like to hit it 260 in the middle, because I used to hit it 350 in the woods.
Okay, yeah. I'm probably more like the 250 can go anywhere at the moment. I need to get back into it.
It's fun.
Cool. So obviously you said you've grown it to like 15 million a year, which is incredible. Have you got any particular area you focused on that you've seen work really well?
Yeah. So in terms of scale, I mean, it's so different now than when I first started. And really, I think what I've done, again, just because I had to, was I documented my journey, brought people along for the ride, engaged with them on social. Facebook was our biggest channel, still is. And really doing all that legwork, content for years, talking to people for years, like even in forums, like before Facebook groups, allowed me, once Facebook ads were like a thing and Google ads, like we were able to start scaling, you know what I mean? So we started scaling, and then really after a year, like 4 or 5, or I think 4, I ended up hiring experts in certain areas like email, ads, fulfillment center, CRO, and really just bringing in people better than myself. And that's when the scale, really hit, and we still have a ton of scale left. And I've been the bottleneck in the growth a little, just because of how I wanted to run as a lifestyle business and not just go for pure growth. So this year I'm kind of, I said, all right, let's go bigger. So this year we ordered millions and millions of inventory, and we're proving that concept out. So we're doing 1.2 to 1.5 million a month right now, and we're shooting to do 3 million a month starting next month. And a lot has happened to do that, but we just spend a lot profitably and have a good back end to sell to people again.
Yeah. Okay. So you mentioned, selling to people again. So is that kind of email? Is that what's your approach to, repeat business?
Yeah, I think it's difficult in our space. We sell hard goods, right? So high repeat order rate is extremely difficult, because it's not like if you buy a wedge set, you don't need to buy another wedge set.
Yeah.
So it's a very difficult business to get into and run, because you have to have not a lot of SKUs, but to sell them more stuff, you need to have other SKUs. You're not just a consumable or repeat order business or change the design like apparel brand or something where you can launch all the time. And it's hard to launch and design new products. So, so we think about repeat just with like insane customer service, where we'll do anything for them. We do a lot of things like thank you voicemails, thank you handwritten cards, thank you videos, Facebook group, etc. But email, and doing email in a engaging way, is really the best way for us to sell to them again. And that's our true asset. Like if someone were to buy BombTech, they're not just buying the cash flow and the EBITDA, they would buy the email list, the customer list, all the assets we own. And I think that's there's a lot of people that are new to e-com now, and that's really how you have to think of it. You got to flip it. It's like, Facebook ads may drive some daily revenue, but that's just front end. It's not the real business,
Yeah. If someone bought the business, what are they really getting? Is it literally just like the stock and the staff, but everything else they're going to have to figure out themselves, or is there that audience there? Yeah, I'm a big fan of the kind of one-to-one personalization stuff. The voice notes or videos or postcards and things. I've had a lot of success with postcards before.
Yep.
But talk to me about this, the like engaging content in emails, because you mentioned obviously if someone's bought a driver, they don't need another one. They might buy one of the different like woods or whatever, like gradients and stuff. But yeah, there's only so much you can sell. So what can you talk us through a bit of that approach to engaging email?
We're always working on it. We've got like our core 80-20 rule, where we have like a cadence of when we send, how we send, and what we send. And then, at the end of the day, we want email to drive revenue, but we want to have people opening, clicking, and engaging. So like my core thesis is I try to take the same approach with social as I do with email, which is ask questions, engage, get their feedback, and make them feel part of the journey. Because like when I first started 2012, that's all I did, because I needed their info to even build the first product. So I took that same approach and still do an email. So like if we have a golf glove we're designing, I may throw 2 pictures up and say A or B, right? Like a super simple thing where they could reply back. Or, we do just a ton of like, hey, reply back with this, or like reply back with your opinion. Again, not always it's this or that, but like we have a hybrid, what we're going to launch, a 64-degree or a chipper. We actually are making both. But I was like, well, let's see what people want. And I had one preconceived notion of what I thought they would want. And this is always the most interesting part. I think ego is the hardest thing to get out of your own way as an entrepreneur, because like, hey, I started this is mine, like I'm the best. You need to just remove that thought completely, because you're not. It's your customer that matters. So we were just asked like, hey, and I thought 64 would be more replies than chipper, and the chipper was like 10x the replies.
Oh, really? Okay.
So we say, hey, do you want a 64 chipper next? And everyone's like, chipper. Like, okay. So that also gives us useful data to then launch new products, micro testing, micro information in terms of, all right, what do people actually say they want? And then let's test it. So that's just like, has been a core of like the storytelling, the engaging. And we do the same thing on social. Like most of our posts are like just to get engagement, because that's how people want to use it. The one nice thing with email versus social, you can mix in selling into the engagement. And that's why for us, we look at it as our number one channel. Because we can engage, have fun, build brand, but then we can, when we have an offer or something they've only bought one, we can cross-sell to something else and they're more likely to take an action versus post it on social. That's the big thing that changed in 2016. I used to be able to do the same thing we did in email on social, but if I post social about a new product, like I just did this. I don't do the content anymore on social, but we do all this, engaging stuff. We get 100 comments here, 20 shares, 800 likes on an engagement post. But then if we do a selling post, like, hey, hybrids are in stock, 1 like.
Yeah.
So it's like, but in email, you can tell them, hey, hybrids are back in stock and have action. So it's social, we kind of remove the selling completely outside of ads. We've got engagement on organic, and email is it's kind of the best of both worlds because you don't need to pay to drive action. You can do the same things we do in ads without paying for that deployment of the ad.
Yeah. And I suppose social probably drives sales anyway, just on its own through that engagement. More people see the posts. People might engage with the post and then go, well, actually, yeah, I might as well go check out. I'll go check out the store while I've got 5 minutes spare. Let's go have a look. So yeah, it probably drives a lot of sales indirectly. But yeah, like email, you've got people engaged. I suppose with the engagement stuff, you're building that audience who actually want to hear from you as well. So when they see that email drop into their inbox, it's almost like, they look straight to, it pops out in between everyone else. They see that name and they go, yeah, cool, that's the one I want to open. I know I do it with other brands. There'll be like 50 emails unread in the promotions bit. And if there's a particular brand that I kind of like, if I see that in there, I just open that one.
Oh yeah, and not only that, like just asking questions is useful for you as an owner or as a brand, and then it also does move you from promotions tab to the inbox, because Gmail or whoever seems you as more relevant. You know what I mean? So there's a lot of reasons to do it, and email is one of those things where I'm not saying e-com owners do it wrong, but they want to make it harder than it is and over design it, over complicate it, have a million calls to actions. And we found as an email agency, doing Klaviyo for e-com brands, that one call to action, simple copy, and engaging, and then timing the offers is so much more effective. But it's almost like this struggle where like they want to have it on brand, look a certain way, make you a million images. And it's like, that's not the right use of email. Like you can have some of those elements, but be native to the inbox. You know what I mean? It's like, if I send you an email, am I going to send you a newsletter with 50 call to actions? I'd be like, yo, Will, let's go golfing at 2. You cool? It'd be plain text. So why not send what people are sending, which is native to that platform? You know what I mean? So that's, as a concept, one thing where we tend to have, I wouldn't say pushback, but just a discussion, and we can do both. But those typically, tend to do really well.
Yeah, I've definitely seen it where, clients want to put just a bunch of products in it. You'll try and create like quite a tailored email to one specific call to action or product, and they want to add in a grid of products below it, just because I don't know if they're worried that they won't get the sales from that one push, or whether it's like a best practice thing, and they're seeing everyone do it, so they think, well, everyone sticks a grid of products in, so that must generate sales for people. If they're not interested in the one product we're pushing or like kind of talking about, they've at least got the option to click something else. But I think that's still better than a lot of what I see, which is kind of what you're talking about, which is you'll get like a promotion, then a blog, then some products, then some other products from a different category. And you can be scrolling, you scroll through this email on your mobile and it's just got so many different options for you.
Yeah.
You end up just kind of going, nothing stands out, or you just kind of ignore it.
So it's the overly designed struggle, and it's just one of those where you want to make it more difficult because you can, and it doesn't mean that you're making it better,
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because with things like landing pages and landing pages, you tend to talk about like one action. You want people to take this one action, and that will be, send an inquiry in or click sign up or add to basket, whatever. But for some reason, that doesn't translate to email, where people suddenly go let's just hit them with everything.
It is odd. I don't know and I think that is what makes our job, I wouldn't say easier, but most accounts that we do audits on have so much opportunity, which is nice, because like we rarely go into an account and say, whoa, they have it dialed in. Usually it's just a ton of opportunity, very clear to show, hey, if you do, and this is what we tell people, like if you do this, this, and this is the outcome or what we expect to happen, and we can do that for you, whatever. But so I think that's the interesting piece. And also the messaging is key. You know what I mean? Like that's half of it. It's the message, not the look and feel. And I think that's the brand battle. But like, it's funny, I have a CRO guy who's done a fantastic job for us, but he rarely touches design. Doesn't touch button colors, doesn't touch stuff. All he does is the messaging. And that for us has had the biggest impact. So we try to take that same philosophy with like, all right, what's the root reason people buy, don't buy, and throw those elements into email. You know what I mean? The message is half of it.
Yeah. Well, they want to know that the product's going to solve that problem for them. And that it's going to, and they're going to enjoy it, and it's going to be a good purchase for them. The design is secondary. I think design is still important. You still need a site, or at least a website that looks good. There is kind of that matter of trust. I think people tend to, if you're looking at a website that looks like it was designed 10 years ago, you might question that, and it might put you off a little bit. You can maybe balance out some other trust things, like having loads of reviews on there.
See, I'm a big fan of ugly.
Yeah.
But having the right elements, like that's the core. Is like, do you have, like, we I don't want to say all my secrets, but the trust, like we use quantity of units sold, reviews, social posts that would consider our site maybe ugly, but it's the trust factor that gets them, and social proof that makes them know, okay, these guys are legit. So yeah, I think there's a combo there that's like, it's got to be clean enough, sexy enough to know it's legit and they've invested in it. But also the elements are more important than the actual slickness, if that's a word, of the website. Because like when I first switched to Shopify, the website was really slick, clean, and conversion was the worst. When we started interjecting what I would consider ugly elements, but were crucial, which was like the like snippets from Facebook and different like testimonial things that really don't look that clean and great, but that's what people want. It makes it just more tangible, which is, again, CRO is a whole different topic, but like, you got to be legit, anyway you cut it.
Yeah, absolutely. Just going back onto these engagement emails quickly. So when people respond to them, do you follow up with those, or is it more like for example, when you ask people to vote on which club they want, do you take that in, do all your kind of work in the background, decide on what you want to produce, and then announce it and say, we listened to you, we're going to launch this product? Or do you actually kind of hit people in the middle as well and say, cool, thanks for the response, we're looking into this?
It depends on what we're asking. So like, if we're getting 5,000 replies, we are going to do a blast, follow-up blast. Say, hey, wow, you guys voted, and to our surprise, it was the chipper. If it's something more reasonable, we will fire back with reply. We did do a test where we replied back versus just waiting for the next blast, and we did not see a significant difference, measurable difference in like revenue, engagement, or opens if we replied to them. So really the magic is just getting them to reply. But the thing that's unique about it, we still read every email, because there'll be customer service issues or things they have questions about in there, and then that's where we jump in. So it's really more of it's not a tactic, it's an overall strategy that gets people engaged, and if it opens up two-way dialogue that they had questions like, hey, I've been thinking about this club or whatever, I had a question about this. that then gives our customer service team an opportunity to wow them to then, do that. So to answer your question, because that is one thing as a client to be like, well, I have to reply to all these. No, like we tell them delete them unless there's a need. But it does open up all these different pathways. And like, it's interesting when you start this conversation and get people to reply and you have a real conversation with the CS guys, their likelihood to buy again is much higher, because they're having real conversations, it's flowing, and it's not a shock when they get another email from BombTech. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. What are some of the, I know you said, so it's rare that you go into an account, have a look at it, and they're absolutely smashing it. What are the biggest or most common mistakes you see where you're thinking this is, you need to stop doing this. This is messing things up, or maybe just missing out massively?
Yeah, I think it's overly designed emails, blasting and not segmenting properly, and then just sending content that's too offer driven, and we see a consistent decline in opens and clicks. So like we see trends that it's the email list is becoming unhealthy. So if we see any of those trends, like if we see that happening, the revenue percent low, overly designed emails, not consistent sending, like those are all triggers that we know it's a good opportunity. And, we have an audit process we go through, but overall it's like those 4 or 5 things that are very common. And I think it just comes from, for some reason, a lack of education of how to really use email. And I think the first thing we do out of the gate is just get them on a schedule that works. Like, here's a monthly calendar. We're going to build this out for the entire month. This is your send days, send times, and this is the type of emails we're going to send. Like that alone, out of anything we do just out of the gate, has such an impact because now you're sending consistently. Customers used to hearing from you. They know when they're going to get emails. And then we dial in, the types of emails to make them most effective. But again, that's just like, would seem simple, but I think a lot of even bigger brands, we've got clients that are doing 30 million plus, and they may just like, hey, I've got an idea for an email. And it's like, okay, well, what we do is we have a whole email. We have to build this like a calendar. And if you have an idea, that's cool. We'll slot that in next month's calendar. So just getting people on a calendar that works for their brand, a cadence that works for their audience, like that's phase 1. And then just simplifying it to like less call to actions, phase 2. And then phase 3 is like just segmenting properly to get better sends. And then we do obviously the last part of messaging, getting more opens, getting more clicks to make your list go from declining and less interest to going more, more parallel or up as your list grows. So it's, a real asset that's healthier, because it's the long game. And I think trying to look at percent of revenue like daily from email, like I need the money from email, is kind of a short-sighted way to do it. Although we're all trained to like, oh, my percent of email revenue is this. It's part of what we do is drive more revenue from email, but it's also a longer term strategy that, you don't want to burn your list,
Yeah. Yeah. And I think kind of like you were saying with when people get in touch with customer service and have a chat with them, they're more likely to buy again.
Yeah.
It's that kind of, if people are engaging with the emails and they're enjoying receiving these emails, they will be more likely to convert at some point.
Exactly.
And repurchase. What sort of segmentation do you look at? Do you go like really hardcore on that with hundreds of segments, or is it a handful of courses?
Yeah, this is where I'll have to defer to the experts. So I don't do any of the in the weeds stuff at this point. We've got 9 employees at the agency, so I just do high level strategy that tries to confuse everyone with new ideas. But my partner Chris at Ecom Growers truly is like, he's a strategist there. I think from a basic level, he does the engagement tiers by opens, like who's the most engaged in terms of segments, just as like send to them first and so forth. But I don't think it's that micro. I think it's more of a high level, like, all right, we want you to get into the inbox as much as we can. Therefore, we send to the VIPs, et cetera, first. But if you want to get super micro, we have to bring in the expert. I'm just the dumb owner of both companies at this point, and I'm glad to have removed myself from the day to day. And that's the only way really I've found to scale any company is like there's no way we could be doing $1 million months if I was in the weeds in Klaviyo, in Facebook ads, doing that stuff. Same with the agency. It's like, we're doing 7 figures there. And, we just work on the high level stuff now. So we got the people, we have our process, but if I'm in the weeds, that makes me a bottleneck, which is kind of maybe counterintuitive. But that's where I'm at after 10 years of building and doing things, is more owner, less operator.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's not a bad spot to be in, is it? For you?
Yeah, it's great. I've been golfing a lot, so.
Yeah. No, I've had that. I've had like owners who are still a little bit too hands-on, and kind of want to be involved in too many meetings, too many processes, and I think you mentioned it earlier. Like, when you're an owner, you've got your view of how things are done. You've got that brand and everything, and you want to be a bit protective of it, maybe.
Of course.
And so that can come through a bit.
Yeah, I think that is one of the struggles, and I hunt as a brand owner for 10 years. I totally get it, and I think I don't know if you could ever even tell an owner, or myself included, like, hey, can you be more hands off? Because for me, it took life events. Like when I had my first kid, it was early startup. I was assembling clubs myself, shipping myself, doing email, I did every single aspect of the business, and the revenue was the lowest. And as it grew, I started delegating, revenue went up, my time went down. And it took me my second kid to figure out, and I took 6 weeks off before I had her, that, okay, I'm not as important as I thought I was, because sales went up when I had my time off. And I realized it's okay to let go if you got the right people. So I think that's the thing with them. If you do hire an agency, you obviously want to be hands-on and control and have that brand. But I think there's a trust factor, and how do you earn that trust of a new client? And that's something we've been working on diligently. Is like, all right, here, like being very clear with here's our process, here's deliverables, here's what you can expect. We really have designed our email marketing and SMS to be hands-off, but we totally understand that there's going to be input from, e-com brand owners because it's their baby. So we don't ever want to take that away, but we typically find, because most of our clients stay on for, we've got clients since we started, which is almost 4 years ago, 3.5, that have been on since day one, which is kind of insane from retention. But we have to get over that, like we call it a 90-day hump, where it's like, we know what we're doing, but our clients may not trust us yet, and that's okay. But once we get beyond 90 days, even sometimes 60, they typically will hand that off from a owner founder to a marketing person in-house. And that's really when it becomes I wouldn't say healthy relationship, but our goal is to save clients time. Yep. Save time, make more money, have more engaged emails. Like that's the goal. But it's hard to do that if they're so hands-on. And like myself included, I was like, you know what? I'm going to make a new email. So I haven't made an email in like 3 years. It's like, I'm going to make an email. So I made an email for one of our flows, and it's doing tremendously poor because I'm not the expert anymore, and I've got the people that are better. And that was a good reminder of myself, like, okay, I should work on bigger lever opportunities that really will drive the business to 9 figures and beyond, versus the copy of one email. And I think one workaround with this is to have brand guidelines when you onboard a new client. Like, what can we talk about? What does the brand stand for? And do a deeper dive into that, so that the emails feel how they want them to feel, which is a hard thing to make tangible, but also get results.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it makes sense, doesn't it? That's kind of what you want to get from the agency. And I suppose that, like you said, that 60 or 90-day period when the owner kind of backs off a little bit, I guess maybe, I don't want to say takes the pressure off. Maybe that's not the way of putting it, but like, just, you know what I mean? Like,
I get it. Yeah. I mean, it's
take the pressure off, but it makes things a bit easier for you. You can now kind of focus on what you're doing rather than making someone happy.
It makes it easier for everyone. The goals, and I think we've really focused on the agency side of transitioning our expectations, or transitioning the business a little bit to really say it's hands off. Before I think we were high touch, hands on to a fault, and a lot of when you're too high touch, too hands on, you can actually sometimes hinder results. So we found that we wanted to set up in such a way that reduces time from client and increases results. So we're feeling much better about and that also allows us to scale up. We've got 40 clients now. We're trying to get to 160. And there's no way to do that if you're super high touch, hands on. And we found that there's so much back and forth that you can invite that actually doesn't drive better results. It just invites conversation. Mm-hmm. And that was one thing that took us a while to say, okay, this is the expectation of conversation. This is what the goal of a meeting would be. And this is how you approve things. So that's the difference between running an e-com brand and an agency model, which is service-based. And it's been kind of interesting to take my e-com approach and mindset with scale and automation to a people-based business. And at Chris, I'm specifically not in the day-to-day. So he comes to me with his day-to-day struggles, and I just kind of say, okay, do we need to do that? Can we automate that? Or delegate that. And that's why we work kind of yin and yang on that company, and we've been able to scale that up.
That sounds pretty awesome. Yeah. Going back to kind of the email and the actual marketing stuff, I suppose. Yep. Have you used many other channels like SMS, push, direct mail? Seen much success with those?
Yeah. So SMS is definitely 100% like peanut butter and jelly. SMS is one of those things we offer now for almost every client. It's not a replacement by any means. And it is still, I wouldn't say early, but it's definitely a huge opportunity. Even in my own store, when we send a text, there's a massive bump in traffic, revenue, et cetera. So we look at email as the core, SMS as a bolt-on or add-on. It's not necessary, but we'd like to have everyone doing it, and it really does have some impact. We'll see what the long-term effects are, but right now, I would not say, hey, forget about your email.
Yeah.
But SMS is like a no-brainer. Other stuff we haven't really offered as a service that I do is I use thanks.io, which is a postcard service that does thank you cards. Not necessarily a, game changer, but it's a nice post-purchase thing. So there isn't many other channels outside email and SMS that I think are massive, massive levers at this point.
Yeah, I feel the same. I wouldn't ditch email for SMS, but I think there's a lot of opportunity there. I get a handful. I don't get that many at the moment, actually. I get one brand who only contacts me through SMS, and I just ignore it, and I've ignored them for quite a while, and they still do it. So they're kind of, if they're doing that on scale, they're just burning money, because SMS is more expensive. I can't remember what the costs are like in the US, but the UK, it wasn't too bad. But as soon as we started doing stuff outside the UK, costs were kind of doubling or quadrupling just for a single SMS.
Just like with email, you want to have an engaged SMS list, or it's going to become ineffective. So it's definitely not the core, but it can have kind of a crazy impact. And I've never seen such, not that I watch the website often, but if you do a launch or have a big promo, you send a text, and if it's an effective one, you can see the traffic spike in a way that email can't. So that's pretty cool to see. So I think, especially for product launches, SMS is an absolute no-brainer.
Yeah. Did you just use it as a very infrequent product launch, or maybe a special promotion or something?
Yeah, we do have a cadence. I think we're on email at BombTech, we send 4 times a week. SMS, we send 4 times a month. So it's a much lower touch initiative. We are looking to get a little more, try to be more engaging on that channel, but don't want to overdo it. Email, it's you have a little more flexibility. I feel you can send more often, and text is still a little intimate. It's still one of those things where it's it's almost what's the word? Polarizing, or when you get a text, it can either be really good or really bad. So it's So I think it's a more emotional inbox, if you would. So it's like we're aware of that, and we would never send at the frequency we send email, unless the audience said, yes, I want that. So that's how we look at it, as a impactful, lower frequency bolt-on channel.
Yeah. I know there's some companies popping up that are doing it as a conversational channel, but more like a support channel, which I think could be good. I've not used it myself yet. I think there's opportunity there. I'd quite like to see it on WhatsApp though, and those sort of channels where it's doing a similar thing, but I don't use text, right? I don't use the message function on my phone. I use WhatsApp for pretty much everything. WhatsApp, email. Yeah, I don't even use Facebook Messenger anymore. Used to do it a bit, but everyone's moved off that now. But
yeah, the conversational tech stuff I think is interesting. We've seen some people try it, have not seen anything that would say it's a big opportunity yet. Like we've gone down that road, and it's just, as of today, doesn't seem to have the same impact of having a conversation via email does.
Yeah, but I think it's more like a customer support thing. It's a good point. Like, if you need to jump on live chat, if you've got some questions on a website and the person's not there, or it's moving a bit slowly, or whatever the reason is, you kind of want to move away from that screen. You might have to move away from your computer. You might want to do something else with your phone, which is difficult if you're trying to keep live chat open. So text means you can keep that conversation going at the speed that is convenient for you, and it's just in its own app. You don't have to worry about coming back to a Chrome browser or whatever. I think as an alternative to live chat, there might be some good.
Live chat was rough. Live chat was so sexy in 2016, and we went hard at it, not to derail, but we actually did a test and found that live chat hurt conversion, because there was a detraction and people would just go to chat and then they would forget what we're doing and have a conversation and wouldn't buy.
Okay.
So we actually, because we used to be like, oh, we got to engage, the whole thesis of like my hypothesis of the thing, and like, oh, live chat's the best way to do it on the website. And I spent years of just doing live chats, and we found that every time we had live chat on the website, it actually hurt conversion. So I think there's the fear of that. I think live chat or maybe text conversation could work well if you're staffing it 24/7 and it's on the support page. So I don't like those types of functions on a product page, collection page, or something like that. So I think use it sparingly and wisely.
Yeah. I guess use it when it feels like the customer needs it, rather than putting it in front of them and saying, look, we're here if you want to chat.
Right. And then they'll chat and they won't buy, which is, and now that we're scaling much more dramatically, I couldn't imagine trying to do live chat and support that, because like we used to do launches even years ago, we're much smaller, and live chat would be like blown up. We'd have like 4 guys just going as fast as can, and sales were not that high then. Now they're much higher, and I couldn't imagine. I think it's an unnecessary overhead needed to lose sales.
Yeah. I mean, if it's losing your sales, it's worse. But I wonder how many times I've opened up live chat and asked some questions that I could have just found on the page, but because live chat popped up, I just went, well, I feel like it's easier for me to just message someone, especially if I'm at my PC and I can have live chat on one tab. If it's one that it pings the volume. The volume icon in the tab, so you can see when someone's responded to you.
Yeah.
So actually, I'm slowing down my purchase because I'm doing other things, waiting for someone to respond to me to tell me the information that might be on the page anyway.
Right. Exactly. Crazy.
But yeah, that's interesting. So yeah, just before we finish, then, what do you find the most annoying thing in marketing?
Annoying thing, man. There's so many. No, I think at a high level, as a brand owner myself, I think there's so many marketing agencies and so-called experts that are not. And I think vetting who's legit is probably the most important skill as an owner. There's 2 things. number one, before you hire anyone, you need to know how to do it yourself. So like for me, back in the day, I didn't hire someone to run Facebook ads until I did 1.5 million a year. And I ran ads all myself. Did I do it well? No. But I knew how to do it. So I think no matter what you do, you need to know how to do yourself enough to hire and fire. And you got to have a process to vet them. So I would say the most annoying thing is a lot of people say they're experts, post stuff on LinkedIn with BS stats. And then when push comes to shove, if you were to hire them, they wouldn't know what to do. So it makes it difficult, I think, as a brand owner to want to hire an agency, and also as an agency owner to cut through the noise, be like, well, we're actually legit versus these other companies that are not. So that is overall, I think it's tough on both sides because of that. The barrier to entry to become a marketing agency is low.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely something to consider. I know I've been burnt by agencies before when I was in-house. The thing that bothered me was signing on with an agency and having a chat with the senior people, and then the person who's actually working on your account has like 18 months experience.
Yeah.
And what I've actually found also in-house as well, though, is a lot of people tended to be platform experts, but not marketing experts. So they would know how to use the platform, how to set up ads, how to create audiences and things, but they didn't really understand why people respond to certain messaging and really how to get them ticking.
Yeah, I think that's kind of one of our advantages is that my partner Chris worked side by side with me for like 4 years at BombTech. So he was inside ecom brand. So now to go to the agency side, I think we've got a more intimate understanding of what ecom brand goes through, which is just our angle, because it's hard to know the full picture if you're just doing a specific task, right? So I think being siloed has some advantages with efficiencies, but not knowing the full picture, like why, can be a challenge for sure.
Yeah, awesome. So just finally then, is there anything else you're curious about at the moment, like non-email or even non-marketing?
Am I curious about? I'm spending a lot of time on LTV, lifetime value, and just understanding why my customers are buying. And if there's anything else we can do to increase repeat order rate, lifetime value. So it's more of like retention side, which is everyone's talking about it now, mostly because of Facebook iOS 14 stuff. So that's just something that we've been working on for years, but more of getting data behind like, all right, if we're making this video, thank you video or this effort, does it have an impact on repeat order rate? And then pricing, we just started working with these guys at Price Stack. Didn't end up using what they suggested just for a couple of reasons, but like optimizing price and offers is something I'm always obsessed with, because that's one of the biggest levers, but just overall being a better brand. And, for me, what does it take to get to 9 figures? How's it's a big gap. Yeah. And what's really the difference from doing, 13 to 14 mil to doing 100 million, and I think trying to have bigger discussions with brands that have done it is pretty, it has been blowing, shifting my mind. I'm like, well, okay, you're doing 60 mil or 80 mil. What was the change there? And a lot of times it makes you realize I'm the problem. I'm the bottleneck.
Yeah.
Throttling some growth. And that's hard for me to understand. So I think getting out of the weeds is the only way to scale. So that's kind of what I'm personally focusing on both companies. It's like, okay, one does 8, one does 7 figures. And now that I've talked to, other bigger brands, it's like, wow, that's really not that good.
Yeah.
But yeah, always can be better,
Yeah. Awesome stuff. If anyone wants to have a chat or reach out to you, what's the best way of doing that?
Yeah, if you're a golfer, bombtechgolf.com. If you're an ecom brand, we work with, ecom brands doing at least $1 million a year, ecomgrowers.com, or LinkedIn at Tyler Sullivan. Been pretty active on there. If I can add some value, I'd love to.
Awesome. Cheers, Sully.
All right, well, thanks, man.
A big part of Sully's email strategy involves engagement. Ask questions, engage with customers, have conversations with them if you can, and use the learnings you get from these conversations to improve your business. offer content that they actually want to read, introduce new products that your customers have actually told you they want through those conversations you've had with them. As Tyler mentioned, and I think we've discussed a few times on the podcast before, messaging is key. It's not the design, it's not the look and feel of an email, it's the message. If you get that right, and if you can tailor that, it's on an almost one-to-one basis, you'll do fantastically. If you come across just salesy, sure, you'll make a bit of money, but the more the customer feels that you care about them, the more engagement you'll get, the more response you'll get, and the better you'll do in the long run. If you'd like to hear more from Sully, get over to LinkedIn and follow him there. He posts loads of great advice. Any other podcast questions, feedback, guest requests, etc., send them over to will@customerswhoclick.com or tweet me at Will Lawrenson. Next up, I've got Adrian Savage joining me. We're going to be talking about email again, but this time we're going to be looking at deliverability and the 4 core pillars of reaching the inbox. But until then, keep those customers clicking.